and I were talking, and she was like, "Oh my God, Sonia ma'am is here, and she's amazing." So really excited to hear about your work. Dr. Sonia Antoranz is a full professor of biological physics at University of Oxford and the associate head of the physics department. She works on physics at the interface of biology, nanotechnology, and information processing, and is an expert in atomic force microscopy and biological systems. She holds a PhD from Osaka University in Japan and has a special interest in the role of mechanics in biology. So thank you so much for joining us. And
I think this works, right? You hear me? Yeah, great. I teach here in this room, so I know the equipment. So welcome to Oxford Physics. I'm much older than the previous speakers, so I have a much longer story to tell, but I still fit it to the clock. I'm a physicist, and I've been here since 2003, 22 years at Oxford. I'm going to tell you a bit about my life, how I became a professor here. I don't have such a linear career as the previous speakers, maybe. And also, maybe in the end, you find useful to hear my story as a mentor of many students like you over 20 years in this department. To start with, it was great to see how still an Oxford education is very valuable. Being in a college, same in Cambridge, being able to talk to people from so many disciplines and from all over the world, I think is the best we offer in Oxford and Cambridge, apart from the science we do. I think, on this I will end, but I'm also going to start. You're going to have, you join in academia and your degrees in a very difficult moment. We just heard this morning that the federal government in the US withdrew more than $2 billion from Harvard in medical research. This is the landscape we're in. And I think, unfortunately, this is also something I hope you think about, how you become resilient and adaptable to a very dangerous and a very complicated world. So I started my journey in Spain. I grew up in the Canary Islands in Fuerteventura in the 1970s. It's an island, and so that was Spain entering democracy after a long dictatorship. I didn't even have a school very regularly. I grew up, in a very humble background. My mother didn't go to school, which was quite typical of her generation in Spain, which went through the Spanish Civil War. So I don't come from an educated background at all. I moved to Madrid when I was 12, 13. I always and I discovered at school that I love languages and that I love physics. I remember this thing of imagining that you could feel just this feeling of intuition that somehow I always remember learning about the equations of gravity in high school and all these things. How the intuition of the equations, like there was something you could feel at the same time as you feel with your head. This has still now obsessed me. I love physics. So I went to university and I studied physics. I didn't fit in at university at all. Most students were middle class. I didn't like it. So I started studying at the same time languages. I studied first Russian. I don't know why I picked Russian, and then Chinese. That was 1991, collapse of the Soviet Union, and my Russian teacher, who had talking about mentors and interesting people in your life, my Russian teacher, who had himself a crazy life, he was the son of a Spanish refugee in the Civil War in Moscow, very famous artist was his father, told me, Sonia, why don't you go to Moscow? It's very exciting. The Soviet Union has collapsed. There's all these scholarships. Nobody wants to go because I was, okay, I just went to Moscow. That started my journey out of Spain. I never went back. I was 20, went to Moscow State University. I was an amazing time, full of hope for Russia and for the world. It was supposedly the end of the Cold War. And we were all riding the opposite feeling we have now. And that's sad for me, because I was lucky to ride that wave. It was a wave of hope in which we would all be friends again. It was the end of history. Like Francis Fukuyama said, so I went to Moscow, then I finished my degree. From Moscow, I went to Beijing. I was interested in computational linguistics, what is now machine learning translation was the beginning of that. I thought that's what I wanted to do. So I was studying Chinese grammar, crazy, I have a crazy career. And then after that, I start to miss physics. I started to miss the lab. And I started to get interested in Japan. Like, okay, so how come Japan, a country which in the 19th century was in a sort of kind of Japanese style feudalism of the Edo period, how come it's now the second, at the time was the second strongest economy in the world and had such interesting research. So combining my interest in history and people and my, the fact that I didn't come from an educated family gave me a lot of freedom. I always did whatever I wanted. I never followed paths or lines. Follow your intuition. Let's see what it takes you. I was never putting myself pressure to achieve, which has been great. I still don't do it. So you don't have to do it to do things. So I went to Japan. I did my PhD in Osaka University with a very good scholarships. Good scholarships are great. So I was lucky to get, at the time, was the best paid scholarship in the world. That for me was great, the Mombusha scholarship. And then it's true, it transforms me because I arrived in Japan and there was all these students, all from very elite backgrounds, most of them from Asia, but also from Europe and all over the world. And that was quite interesting experience for me. So after China, Japan, I stayed on and on and on. But of course, in Japan, a physicist, woman, and foreign has zero chances of having any job. So although I had a very good experience, great mentors, I learned Japanese. I always find the history of Japan and the development of Japan a wonderful mirror to understand what is going on in the world now. I keep going back, and these days I have a kind of big career in history of Japanese physics. I teach and I lecture all over the world about it. It's a fascinating topic from which we can learn so much about what is going on now. So I left Japan. I said, my God, what am I going to do? So it was starting. My PhD was on developing microscopy techniques to look at atoms and structures at the nanoscale. It was the beginning of nanotechnology. And I started to become interested in biology then, because the tools we were using for nanotechnology could be transferred to study biological systems in a way that nobody had done before. We have X-ray diffraction, all these biochemists. But what about we can go into the nanoscale, grab those molecules, stretch these molecules, so treat proteins or molecules like a physicist, not as digital things, but continuous systems that emerge from the universe at the nanoscale, or the mystery of soft matter and all these things that physicists are interested in. So I moved to Denmark after Japan. I didn't like Denmark at all. I didn't fit in. I had the anti-mentor there. I really hated the whole setting. But I was lucky that they were starting the first nanotechnology centers in the UK. And they wanted me here in Oxford Physics because they were starting and they wanted people with my expertise. I didn't know that these things I had been dreaming in Japan were interesting here. So I came to Oxford. I didn't think I would have a career in science. I had been very far away from Europe for a long time, didn't have contacts, and it looked to me very difficult that I could fit in the system. However, when I came here, I did start developing my microscopes and with collaborators as usual in Japan, in Spain, all over in Denmark. We got some very good results. I got the results in which we were the first ones in history sort of to look at proteins moving in real time in liquids, nothing frozen. So that gave me my position in this department. After that, I was already, how long old was I? I was my position 36. I had my son. like the previous talk, I decided children were us, or having an interesting life included children. So I had my son. That means I had to take a long maternity leave, 6 months, during which my career sank again. I didn't quite care. When I came back, it was even worse. I was harassed badly by a senior colleague who physically destroyed my lab so I could not get my tenure. Things get tough. But I said to myself, okay, whatever. You're not kicking me out of my job. I'm going to fight this one. I won. Somehow I had another baby and I'm still here. Out of this story of my difficulties, you're always going to run into difficult people. You know, careers are long. You're always going to have a mess. You always, or you may be the one that destroy other people. You know, life is quite crazy, and I see it all around. So, and this is going back to the last part, the diversity part. So, out of this mess, I always try to follow my path. I don't care what other things. I went back thinking. I wrote, what do I want to do? Why am I doing what I'm doing? What physics are we doing this biology? I wrote a book, Nano Comes to Life, that came out just before the pandemic. And it was quite transformational for me because it opened what I think about physics of the world. I changed again what I'm doing. I became interested again in computational linguistics, all this new AI. Can we make new computers with biology? And I started writing. The book sold a lot because I predicted the COVID vaccines, and it was just published before the COVID pandemic, so that was good. So that got me talking all over the world. That was quite fun. The book then was translated in Spain, and I started writing for Spanish newspapers. They asked me to do it. I'm read now in Latin America, and I'm just writing all sorts of things these days, which is good fun. On the science part, and as I said, I'm moving on again to this interface between technology, computing, biology, and trying to create both devices for medical applications, but also I'm trying to make my own bio-inspired computing, my living computing. So out of this story, and because I was harassed, and because I have a different path, and because I've seen a lot of dramas in the Clarendon lab, lots of people destroyed, I started to work a lot in mentorship and supporting others, creating the environment, changing the environment in which we do science. And this has been also transformational for me. I became associate head of this department, and I started all this mentorship scheme, supporting people that are being harassed and so on and so forth. And out of this becoming very active in collaboration and supporting people have come some of the best collaborations of my life. So I am now involved in a great startup, Max Sapiens, which is in Cambridge and Bangalore, in which we're trying to make, if it's any mathematician here, a non-deterministic Turing machine. So basically a machine that computes not by an algorithm that knows the steps, but by a bit like biological systems or like humans, going around finding the solution. And we're just raising funds now. We're making the first devices in Bangalore, in India. And this came out by supporting an Indian student in Cambridge that was having a hard time. I knew he was great. I knew he has a great talent, and that if he was supported, he will do great things. I started working with him, and now he's doing great things. So sometimes you may think that just having your own objectives, me, will make it, but not necessarily. Talking to clever people having a hard time has been a great source of fun for me in science. I do science for fun. And another thing I'm doing now, another company, one of my students, Henrik, who's great, from Sweden, we came out with this clever detector in the lab. We're trying to make neurons in a chip, sort of mixture between condensed matter physics, computing, and neurons, and sort of read their signals and trying to learn why neurons use as little energy as they do to compute. Our brain uses the same energy as a lamp, and Amazon needs a nuclear reactor, right? So learning this, we came out with extremely sensitive sensor. And we're also thinking of making a company and using this for medical devices. So what is my advice over all these years? Careers are long. And you are under a lot of pressure to succeed. You got your scholarships. And but life is complicated if you just want to go in one path. For some people, works and they're able to fix themselves and work in one path. But most people want to have an interesting life, enjoy life. So don't give up on having an interesting life. Learn as many things as you can and make many friends. Like I said, mentors are important, but also your colleagues. And be smart. Look at the world is changing. Move and find the opportunities for survival. It's very unlikely that career paths are going to be like they have been up to now. You know, we had, as I said, in the 1990s till now, we had in the Western world, not the rest of the world, a very peaceful time. Things may change, things look complicated. So engage with society, be ethical, support others, fight for our democracy, fight for having a good world, and be yourselves, and it'll be fine. This is what I have done, and I see it always works. Be a good person and support others, and usually you'll be all right. You know, this is what I always see. Being too focused, too obsessed may take you places, but creates quite unstable situations. And life is very long. Another thing I see is that people that succeed very early, at my age, I'm 54, they're already going down. They're bored, they're tired of their success. And I see many people like myself, especially women who have children and they have a slow career, that actually bloom after 50 or 60. Each of us has his own path. And you have to find a way in which you can live your lives. Especially for women, there's this pressure when to have children, not to have children. You can have your children if you want to. And there's time. I did it. And I'm very glad I did. So maybe you have to delay some things, but it's okay. And for others, success will come very quickly. And that's also a big challenge. Because after that, I see a lot of people that sort of fall off it. So follow your path and don't compare yourselves with others and try to be the best you can. And you'll be fine, I think. Anyway, that was my little talk. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Sonia. I really appreciate you sharing everything and being so real with us. For Dr. Sonia, Dr. Riam, and Dr. Manika, we'll have questions at the end, just so that